has another meeting. Is it okay for me to start video?
Yep, you should be able to. No worries. I'm going to start mine as well. So, hello. Okay, and we're live. So thanks everyone for joining us. Okay. Oh, sorry. I heard the stream in the background. It very much confused me because it was talking to myself. Okay, so we're live now with the Node.js website redesign committee or initiative. Do we want to start going down the agenda? Well, we should do introductions first, I assume. So I'll go first. I'm Judy Siren. I'm chairperson of the Node.js community committee, and I'm a participant in the website redesign. Adam, do you want to
go? Yeah, my name is Adam Miller. I'm a developer at LinkedIn and co-chair of the website redesign working committee along with Manil. And I'm also in transit today, and I apologize for any and all background noise.
Yeah, good. Manil?
Hi, I'm Manil. I'm a developer based out of Vancouver, and I help out with this meetup along with everyone else.
Awesome. Dhruv?
Hi, I'm Dhruv. I'm a student from India and also a member of internationalization team for Node.js.
Awesome. And then AJ.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Node.js mentorship team, and also I'm just here as a guest to try to talk about a separate initiative that's related that I'm trying to kick off.
Awesome. Cool. So it looks like we have 2 items on the agenda. I just realized I totally started driving this because I'm in that mindset. Manil, do you want to drive this?
Sure. Let me just open up the minutes. Sure. I realized my brain is slow this morning. I think I also said meetup.
Yes, you did. That's okay though.
Yeah. So on the agenda, we have 2 things. The extended color palette proposed by Adam for the Node.js redesign. And we also want to continue identifying topics to discuss for the Collab Summit for next week. So we'll start with the extended color palette. That's issue number 42. We'll pull that up.
Yeah, I'm doing the same.
So I remember last we left off on this, Mark was on the last call and he said he was going to bring this to marketing and see what their opinions were on it. I don't know if Tierney, you probably know best if we have an update on that.
Yeah, I was in the last call and I did not hear that, and I also have the summary, and I don't believe it was discussed in the summary. So I will. The next call is in about I think a month from Thursday. So I will actually just end up sending an email to them today, or well, probably not today because I have 9 meetings today. But I will do it. I'll take that
by 3. Good job.
Yeah, Thursday's always like that for me. So yeah, I will ping the committee. Actually, I'll follow up with Mark first, and then I'll ping the committee, just because it'll probably be better if it comes from him. So I'll do that.
Great, thank you. I was also thinking, sorry, there's a truck going by. I was also thinking, just before this call, we can possibly vote to, or choose to move ahead with the color palette for all website property material without having buy-in from marketing and for logo asset changing. Like, that's really what we need approval for. So
yep.
Yeah.
And that will also help in the discussion around the asset stuff. Is we're using this already, and we'd like the logo to be consistent with everything else, which is kind of what a logo should do. So
yep. I mean, ideally the logo drives the rest of the site, but we can do it the other way around.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I'll take that action item to do that, to follow up with them. Cool. Was there anything else we had to discuss in that issue?
I don't believe specifically with color palette development. So yeah, just a check-in ticket to see what progress was.
Cool. Awesome. Okay.
Awesome. Then after that, if that's done, if unless anyone else who's on the call wants to add something to extended color palette. All right. Let's do this. The next topic then is we need to identify topics to discuss at the Collab Summit. So far we have two things identified: getting started, which context for that is we wanted to see if we could bring Node School content into our new getting started, partly because Node School content is designed to be beginner friendly and should work for anyone wanting to get started with Node.js. There was also some overlap with using that getting started content in another issue, I believe, which is stack exploration, where we wanted to put an in-browser sandbox where people could play around with Node.js. That was one. Another part that was identified, I think, was we wanted to iterate over how we describe Node.js on the nodejs.org page. I believe Tierney proposed that we work on that to make it a bit more current. I'm trying to pull up the issue to add more context here.
Yeah, so that's just basically like we've had that same description of like Node.js is an event-driven I/O runtime for Java. Like it's a whole thing that's a technical spew that isn't really super friendly to non-technical people or people who are not familiar with all those terms, and that's not necessarily a great introduction to the project. So more of just riffing on that and seeing how like that stuff can be included there. We shouldn't drop that context, but you're just making something that's a little bit more approachable. Because I know like when I opened the Node.js 10 site or Node.js 0.10 site and 0.8 sites back when I was getting started or trying to, that was totally unapproachable to me as someone interested in this but has no idea what it is. That didn't really help. So that's a good start. But yeah, so that's something that I think is good for us to iterate on at the Collaborator Summit, and kind of have that discussion going around that. There's so on the there is something else that we should get to design. I have an update for design stuff in a bit once we're done with this discussion. But on the code samples thing that's in that discussion for what we should talk about at Collaborator Summit. The RunKit team will be there at the Collaborator Summit. They're coming out, so we'll be able to talk to them and like have them participate in the discussion as well and kind of help us guide that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually don't know if Jen Schiffer is going to JSConf EU. She might be. I'll follow up with her and see if she wants to come as well. If she's going to even be there awesome. 2 days earlier. But yeah, that's something to keep track of as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Cool.
Are we planning to add more items to this then? So we have 2: update to homepage messaging, issue number 34, and adding getting started content. The thing about this is I don't know how long the session is. But each of these could take
however long you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't we need to reconvene at the end for they have presentations on what you did in your working group sessions? Yeah. Okay. But it's however long you want it. So for
some of the stuff there's blocked off sessions for about an hour, but you can really go longer if you want to. It's very loose in my experience. So.
Okay, that's awesome. So Manila and I will be chatting this Saturday over the weekend to get like a full dedicated itinerary for what's going to be happening during the meeting. So I'm hoping to keep it pretty well structured, and have a few group exercises and subgroups to break off and do their own parts and keep iterating on content we're interested. So we'll get that posted in issue. my hope is by Monday we will get it written up as a proposal and get it posted in there so people can know what to expect in the sessions. And we'll take these and turn it into a more like dedicated meeting minute structure. Is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's a plan. So I'm just wondering, aside from those two, do we want to add anything right now in the meeting? Because we will talk about it over the weekend. But if there's any proposal from anyone in the meeting to add things to that session.
So I think Greg Wallace will be coming out to the Collaborator Summit. I don't know if I know he's coming to JSConf EU. I don't know if he's coming to the Collaborator Summit. I imagine that's what he's coming for. I'm sorry, Greg Wallace is a member of the Linux Foundation, and he works at the Linux Foundation and currently works on some of the marketing things around Node.js and the Node.js Foundation. So it might be helpful to get him in there as well, even for just a small period if he's there, because I really do think duplicating effort across two different sites is counterproductive for both groups, both the project and for the foundation, especially if we do go, like when we get to the implementation side, if we go down the path of having something like headless CMS as the base, which honestly I think would be helpful for us. Having that removes the reason the foundation went off and created the WordPress site that they use. So, that's a good thing for us to be talking about with him as well.
Definitely.
So two things. One was I remember a conversation where Mark Hinkle jumped in and talked about how the foundation will continue to retain control over part of the site. I'm trying to remember exactly which conversation this was.
It's probably the foundation website, and it was probably Good.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if I remember correctly, the main concern is they don't want it to live in GitHub because there's a lot of people who don't know how to Git or how to code who need to manage content on the foundation website.
Yep.
So depending on how we make it, they might be more amicable to jumping on board with this. So we can breach that conversation at the Collab Summit.
And that then leads to, like you mentioned, Greg Wallace will be there. There and the RunKit team also will be there. I assume there is some convention as to how to invite certain people who we know are going to be there and who might have a stake in this.
Absolutely not. There is no convention.
It's called email.
Yeah. I believe me, I wish there was.
Well, then I suppose like we'll informally make a list of people who we'd like to ask to siphon off part of their time to join us.
Yeah. And I know the RunKit team, they're coming for this session. This is what they're most interested in. Or one of the things I know probably docs will also be interesting to them, just because it's kind of part of this as well. So, I think that's where they're coming for, or what they're coming for, at least to my understanding. And then Greg, if he will be participating, basically you just have to ask the people, and they'll usually end up saying, yeah, it's pretty loose. Like we can change things around, like we can do whatever we need to. But usually I just suggest asking people if you want them to come. And usually if you're asking them, they probably already want to come anyway. So, that's a good thing to have there. That said, I will probably ask a few TSC members to drop in and kind of help us give context and participate in this, because I know that's something that we've wanted for a bit. So,
right. They want to have a say in how it's described. If we
actually, I think it's more for us and getting context on a lot of the things in Node.js, like the docs, and how we can kind of go through and start instrumenting change there, because I have been seeing a lot of discussion around beginning to instrument change, because they're not pretty. Internationalization needs it. certain other individuals are just interested, we need kind of context on it. So I actually might even make a separate session for that, and just docs and integrating all the things.
Yeah, we may want to have a special, like, dedicated session on just docs ingestion, because that's going to be.
I'm totally fine with that. I will actually go propose that at this point.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be valuable.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. But their context is also super helpful in a few other areas around the site, like how we were asking about how the download should be presented, like that kind of thing.
Right on.
On them. Oh, great! I'm muted. Did I totally cut out there for a second?
A couple of seconds.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just general small things that are like small implementation details, but they're if we don't get their input, they become blockers for us rather than just a 5-minute discussion. The downloads button is one example.
There's a comment AJ made, making JavaScript available outside of browsers. Yeah, that's very descriptive. It's exactly that.
Exactly. Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say on the agenda building?
I added in the notes to that we want docs to the list of discussion items, maybe as a separate session. That's the last I had. I have nothing further to add to this part at this stage.
Cool. I think we're good on that. So before we jump into talking to AJ, I did want to give an update on the design stuff. So the RunKit team reached out and said that they were able to secure the design resources that we talked about. Yeah, so that's going to be working out for us.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's very good news. Should we follow up with them on how to engage?
Yeah, so they emailed me privately, and I wanted to share, but yeah, we should definitely follow up through email and get that kind of set up.
Beautiful. Let's get that thing started.
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Okay, so you have something to discuss around docs and internationalization, Drew?
Yes, actually, I wanted to know how we'll be just syncing up with the Node documentations for the website, the new website that we are planning.
Can you describe a little bit more about what you mean?
Like actually the core repository for the documentations is the Node core actually. So the documentations are made and updated up, created and updated up at the Node code repository. And for the internationalization purpose, we are using Crowdin actually. So Crowdin for translating of the documentations to the various locales. So we have actually made a repository actually fetching and collecting up all the documentations and syncing up with the Node core repository for documentations for every minor or major versions, and later on translating them to the locales. So basically, how we for website redesign will be syncing up with the translate documentations and also the English documents for the documents sections actually.
I can speak to that a little bit. So I've been to a few of the meetings with the internationalization team and kind of have a good general understanding of how the system's set up. And I think the goal of, first I should preface this with, this is one of the breakout sessions we're hoping to have at the Collaborator Summit, is talking exactly about how we're ingesting documentation from both the Node core side and then supplying supplemental documentation on our side. So all that machinery is stuff we're going to figure out. Hopefully, get a more concrete answer for you when we do this this session at the Collaborator Summit. That being said, I think if past conversations are an indicator, we should hopefully be ingesting it rather as is. The hope is, I believe, not to change too much machinery or process on other people's side. And fingers crossed, we should be hooking into what is already there, not creating new systems that people have to learn and integrate with. But again, we'll be talking details. I think we're hoping to have a dedicated documentation ingestion session at the Collab Summit. So, does that kind of answer your question, or does anybody else have anything to add there?
I was just going to add that on top of that, I think we should, I think we probably have scope to do design changes. So the actual templates that they're in, we don't have scope to necessarily change. We could. It'd be a massive undertaking, but it'd be probably as massive as what we're already doing. But
one Herculean task at a time.
Exactly. We have scope to change the design. I don't think that would be as controversial as changing the content. Basically, leave all the content as it is and then change the structure of the HTML or whatever you want around it.
Yeah, and if RunKit's demo is any indication, we can do some very cool stuff with the existing content, exactly. with a build step. So, yeah, we have a lot of options available.
Yeah, and so that's generally where I think the website redesign is going to be touching docs. Because you probably will want to have it be more consistent with the new site rather than the old site. Yeah, so that is one thing. No, one thing we will have to consider is basically doing progressive enhancement around it rather than degrading, because they ship with Node Core, meaning any code we change will actually ship with Node Core. So people might not be online, and being able to call out a script when they're looking at the docs. So we need to make sure we're doing progressive enhancement rather than degradation. I can't remember the other term now. The reverse of progressive enhancement.
Graceful degradation.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. We'll also, something that we'll have to talk about during the session as well, because it's nitty-gritty details. We're going to have to support viewing past versions of all this documentation. So all past versions of docs also have to work.
Yeah. And so those are still applied in the same templates. So technically, that's one benefit of how we're doing this, is that the template can change, but the content will stay the same. So that's really the only one of the very few upsides for us on this. Cool. Did that answer your question, Drew?
Yes, actually, awesome that we'll figure out some concrete way syncing up the documentations with internationalization repository or other stuffs at the Collab Summit. But actually, I wanted to what was curious, as with the pace of internationalization, we have proposed a content structure for various major versions for Node, and have collected all the documentations. And as soon as we get a green flag from TSC about setting up the crowd in, so we'll actually start getting more collaborators for translation purposes into locales, and also start translating documentations into the targeted languages. So if actually there's some scope that we have to make some changes in the content or directory structures for the documentations or anything such like that, so we can make those changes in the next couple of days. Else, I think we'll face some trouble getting changes to the content structure. So if there might be some major changes to the content structure, we can make those in the couple of days in the coming days. Else, even after collaboration submit, I guess with this pace, we'll actually start getting translation documents before collaborator submit, actually.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I don't think we have enough concrete information on how any changes we might want to make to content structure to be able to provide recommendations yet. Although I don't see why anything the IATN team is doing right now should have a huge detrimental effect to what we're trying to do. So, but that's good for us to keep an eye on. Thank you for letting us know.
I also do think that it falls under that same thing of where you're working on the templates and the content is totally agnostic, which is actually, you know, beneficial for the I-18N stuff. Basically, the two sets of work don't touch each other, which is good.
Keep it dry.
Yep. Okay. So we have you got a very white background all of a sudden, Manil. Let's see. Okay, so we have about.
You look like an Apple commercial.
But I'm wearing Brady.
We just saw the beats though. So we have about 20 or 38 minutes or 32 minutes, math, to talk to AJ, which we probably won't need to use all of that. But AJ, do you want to kind of give? I think I have context. I don't think anyone else here has context around why we invited you. So
Sure. So as I alluded to at the beginning, I'm trying to kick off an initiative. Right now, I'm just kind of referring to it as the wish list initiative. It's kind of just a way to get more focused direction around the help coming from volunteers as they come into the organization, new contributors as well as existing contributors that are looking for areas to help. I'd like to have a document where they can, like, kind of an entry point for them to find what they'd like to work on that specifically outlines specific tasks that are most helpful to the different working groups and strategic initiatives, et cetera. So right now I'm still kind of working with the ComCom to try to get a separate repo for that, where eventually the WGs and the strategic initiatives will be able to just raise an issue on that repo with any tasks they would like help with. But until I get that acceptance, I've just been meeting with groups in meetings and leaving issues on repos and things like that. So my main intention here was just to kind of make myself known, just let you guys know I'm here and available for you to reach out to if you have any kind of tasks like that you know you'd like to get done, you just don't have the resources currently, and I can help drive some help towards that. That's why I got involved with the mentorship team specifically, is because that'll give me a steady stream of new volunteers to direct towards things. So that's all the context, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. That sounds like an amazing initiative. Send us all your designers, please.
I will.
Yeah, so I think right now how this group is working is we're going through different stages of addressing redesigning the website. So we actually just completed information architecture a little bit ago, and also I noticed that we need to update the README because I think it's pointing to the previous phase. So we finished information architecture, so like designing the kind of structure of the content. We've now moved into design, and so that's you know, actually implementing the wireframe that that Adam made, and you know, going through and applying the concepts that we've come up with to that design, and producing, you know, the resource for that. And the stage after that will be technical implementation. So this is where things like you know, what framework do we use if we even use a framework? How do we go about implementing this? Where does it live? Where does the content live? So that's where like something like a headless CMS comes in. You know, all the technical bits that we need to go and do to implement the design that we have, which we don't have yet. If that makes sense. So yeah, right now we're in the design bit. Yeah.
Okay. So to add to that, AJ, the big needs of this initiative are actually changing over time. There were some people who came on board early and said they wanted to help out with specific things, but we had to kind of let them know that we're progressing stage by stage, so they should come back later and revisit the project at a stage that they're more comfortable contributing to. So you may find that what this project needs now will be different from later, and maybe if what you're doing is visiting every so often and waiting for people to reach out, you'll find that we may reach out over time with different needs.
Sure. Yeah, it's actually going to be sort of a living document. So that repo I referred to that I'm trying to get open would be a place for you guys to update me on what you want changed. Like, okay, we don't need this anymore. Now we need this, that kind of thing. And also the mentorship team right now, we are tentatively planning for June 15th to be our first like cohort kickoff date to start mentoring people. So that first run is just going to be for 1 month. Eventually it'll be for longer. So if you are in a phase where you have actually smaller tasks that you need help with, that would be more convenient for us right now. That's what I'm trying to gather up right now is just small, like 1 month type things that people can work on during our trial run. And we don't have to come up with everything in this meeting. Like I said, I can open a issue on your repo after the meeting or however you'd like to proceed.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So the groups would have, there would be some responsibility on the parts of the groups to go to your repo when this is up and running to update needs as it changes.
Right. Not necessarily a responsibility. It's just you get out what you put in, you know. If you want to participate, you can, but there's no obligation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else have any other questions for AJ? Anything we'd like to poke on at this idea? No? Okay. Awesome. Thanks, AJ, for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Cool. So do we have anything else we need to discuss? Okay, cool. So with that, I think we could probably end about 26 minutes early. So thanks everyone for coming. And I will see a few of you at Collaborator Summit. Excited for next week.
See y'all soon.
See you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye everyone.